lurched forward. Richard didn't know what was going to happen. They arrived at the first gate. The gate opened. And they moved through. The gate closed behind them. And there they were, trapped between the gates. And then the second gate opened. And the cart slowly began to roll out, right into the middle of where the soldiers are. He knew, not because he could see, but he could hear them talking. He could hear their laughter. He could hear the familiar clank of their weapons. And the cart gently rolled past them. After a little while, the owner of the cart stopped the cart. And there they were in front of the Church of St. Mary's. And he said, "Now, I've helped you. Tell me what you're really up to." And he said, "Oh, okay, that's fair." And so he began to tell the story about how, because of their beliefs, they needed to leave the city. And the farmer looked at him and he said, "You're an Anabaptist, aren't you?" He said, "Yes." The farmer said, "Why don't you come home with me? We've had a few Anabaptists come through. In fact, the messenger from Menno Simmons stayed at our house. Come to the farm. The wife would love to meet you." And he took him home, and there's nothing like a farm-cooked meal. Delicious food, baked apples. It was out of this world. Richard went to bed with a full stomach that night. But the next morning he said, "No, I can't stay longer. I need to get to the secret church because that's where I'm going to meet everybody." And so he got up and took off to the secret church. No one was there yet. But don't worry, Richard was willing to wait. And pretty soon he heard some voices and some feet coming through the woods. He got excited. And then he saw the brightly colored uniforms of the Prince Bishop's soldiers. He knew not to say a word, and he quietly ducked down. He didn't have a lot to hide behind because he didn't see it coming. The one said to the other, "See, I told you this was a waste of time." The first one said, No, this is their secret church. If they were going to have a meeting place, this is it." "Yeah, well, do you see anyone here?" "No." "Wait a minute. Who's that over there?" And before Richard could even say Anabaptist, they grabbed him. And they carried him off back to the camp. There they tied him up and left him. Now, there was a woman cooking nearby, and she said, "What you doing?" And Richard told her that he was trying to leave the city and he got caught. And she said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Do you work for the Prince Bishop?" She said, "Yeah, me and my husband. We both have to because he doesn't pay very much." Richard thought about the coins that were sewn into his garments, and he wondered if he had enough to bribe the soldiers. But then he realized if he used that money to escape, how was he going to have enough money to get to Friesland? That wasn't going to work. Pretty soon another soldier came up and looked him up and down and said, "This is a sturdy young one. How'd you like to run errands?" Richard said, "For who?" "Well, the Prince Bishop, of course." "No, I don't think I could ever work for the Prince Bishop." "Ah, too bad. Hate to see what's going to happen to you," he said as he walked off. Pretty soon they came and got him and took him in to see the captain of the guard. And the captain looked him over and said, "So, Anabaptists, they get rebaptized. Have you been rebaptized?" Richard said, "No." He said, "Well, if you haven't been rebaptized, you're a Catholic, aren't you?" Richard knew at that moment he could make a decision. If he said, "Yes, I'm a Catholic," it's because it's true. He technically hadn't done anything to become an Anabaptist yet. He would be as free as a bird. He knew that he wouldn't even be telling a lie. He knew this was his opportunity to just say, yeah, I'm Catholic. And he was good to go. But that's not what Richard did. You see, he had been indecisive long enough. Over and over again, he had been in situations where he failed to speak up, and this time was not going to be one of them. And he said, no, I'm not a Catholic. And as soon as I have an opportunity, I am going to get baptized. The guard looked at him like he was the most foolish person he had ever seen in his entire life. And he said, wait, let's try that again. What? And Richard said, I am an Anabaptist. And I'm going to get baptized as soon as I can. And the guard said, don't you understand? If you would just agree with me, I could let you go. But when you do stuff like this, He called guards in and said, take him to town hall. So back in through the Maritz gate. The outer gate opened, he went in. The inner gate opened, he went through. Down the cobblestone streets, past the Church of Lamberti, right there to the town hall. The guards opened town hall, and they ushered him in. There inside the town hall was a dark, dark, long room. They marched Richard through it. And at the end of the room, where was another set of doors, Richard marched through those doors. And he got into the inner council room where there was a bench with several seats. And the town council was there. And then, from behind Richard, he heard some familiar voices. And he turned around, and there was his mother, his father, his cousin Otto, his uncle Sigmund, his Aunt Frida, and Trudi. All of them had been captured also. And then marched in Hugo Schwartz. And Hugo Schwartz was angry. His face was a deep red. And he said, finally we've captured them all. It's time to punish them. It's time that we take care of them once and for all. He said, well, most of them. They said, what do you mean most of them? Trudi spoke up and she said, Father, I too am an Anabaptist. They said, wait, what? This one's your daughter? You want to explain that? And he said, yeah, my daughter has chosen to follow them too. And they said, well, should we still punish them? He said, yes. Wait, no, maybe. We should banish them. And they said, and who do you think you are to come into the town council and tell us how to do our job? Be quiet. The town council members began discussing. And the one said, you know what? Here's the thing about Anabaptists. They're really good workers. In fact, these two brothers are some of the best carpenters I have ever seen. Another one of the town council members gave him a look that expressed his feelings. And his feelings were, be quiet. Another one said, yes, but if we allow them to continue, if we allow them to have these beliefs, who knows what's going to happen? Oh, it starts here, and then it just goes worse and worse. No, if we're going to have order, we've got to all believe the exact same thing. Finally, they looked at them and said, now, wait. Do any of you have anything to say for yourself? Uncle Sigmund stood up straight and tall. He looked him in the eyes and he said, in the Bible, there's a parable of the wheats and the tares. And in the parable of the wheats and the tares, they are allowed to grow together, and it's not our job to determine who belongs and who doesn't. But at the end, Jesus will take care of it. The town council members looked at each other. And then they looked at the group and they said, do you all agree with this? And they said, yes. But apparently the town council members didn't agree with it because they said, well, very well then, you will be banished. Never, ever, ever again will you be allowed to enter the city of Munster. You will not be allowed to enter its gates. You will not be allowed to enter into any homes. You will not be allowed to eat with anyone from Munster. You will not be allowed to talk with anyone from Munster. You are banished from this moment forever. You and your family and your descendants forever. And then they turned to Hugo Schwartz. And they said, you need some control too. You need to stay very close to the Church of St. Moritz. That is your area. You are not to ever venture outside of there for the rest of your life. The Jansen family was escorted out. The soldiers marched them to the gate of St. Moritz, through the first gate, through the second gate, past the soldiers, down the road, past the Church of St. Moritz, past the secret church in the woods. They walked down the roads, the beautiful hills, the quiet streams. They would stop each night at different farms as they headed to Friesland. Finally, after many days of traveling, after many nights of staying with strangers, trying to give them money, but often just being turned down, they arrived. It didn't take them long to set up new carpentry shops and get things happening again. They decided not to ask about Menno Simons until they learned the language because, you see, Friesland is in modern-day Netherlands. And so the language was a little bit different. And so it took them a little while, but it's similar enough to German. They learned it pretty quick. And finally, they felt like they had mastered the language, and they said, okay, we need to ask about Menno Simons now. And so they saw a stranger and they said, where is Menno Simons? The stranger looked at him and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Please don't talk to me. Goodbye. And they said, that was strange. And they saw someone else and they said, peace be with you, brethren. Where is Menno Simons? He looked this way and he looked that way and he said, why are you asking? And they said, because we traveled a long way to see him. He said, really? We're not supposed to talk about him. But you use our special greeting, so I don't think you're spies. But you see, on December 7, 1542, he was banished. And we were told we could never give him food, give him lodging, talk to him, or talk about him. So what you're doing right now could get you in trouble. But as a matter of fact, I know where he is. Shh, follow me. And so they went and they saw Menno Simons. He was everything they had heard. Menno Simons looked at them and said, where are you traveling from? They said, Munster. It was like a dark cloud crossed his face, and he says, I have never been there, but I have spent a lot of time praying for the people of Munster. Because I had heard stories of what you were going through. Oh, he said, I wish that in this life we didn't have to go through these things. I wish that we didn't have these trials, these persecutions, but you have to remember, with each of these trials, it is a promise. It is a promise that when Jesus comes again, it is going to be that much better. He's going to wipe away every tear. He is going to make all of these things right, and He is going to give us a home that no one can take from us. Mena went on to say, I'm tired of the name Anabaptists. It wasn't a name we chose for ourselves. It was a name they gave us to persecute us. From now on, we're going to be called the Brethren. As soon as that meeting was over, Richard looked at Trudi and he said, I'm ready. I'm going to get baptized as soon as I can. Trudi said, unless I beat you to it. And Otto said, I'm going to get baptized too. And sure enough, that very day, all three of them were baptized in a beautiful little stream right outside the town. And as Mena was baptizing them, he explained to them that there was no magical power in the baptism. It wasn't something that changed who they were, but instead it was a symbol to show the world that no matter what happened, they were choosing at that moment to follow Jesus Christ. They were choosing to follow God wherever He led. They were so excited to be making that decision. And so right there in the quiet stream, Mena said, I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.